I'm Jeff Fugate, President of the Downtown Development Authority, and I'm going to talk to you today about the Town Branch Commons Design Competition on Only Downtown. Why the Town Branch? The idea of the Town Branch has been around for a long time. In fact, the Town Branch is the original creek that the city of Lexington was actually founded on. And if you go back and you look at the maps from the early, or actually it's the late 18th century, so when the city was really plotted out, the courthouse was, we had the public square. Well, down the hill from the public square was the Town Branch Creek. And so, in fact, the way the streets are aligned in downtown Lexington actually follows the original creek. Over the years, the creek remained remained next to the train tracks. Eventually, it was sort of put into more of a ditch, looked less like a creek. Eventually, they threw some boards over it and used it as a street, until eventually, in the early 20th century, it was actually put into a 10-foot culvert. And the Town Branch continues to flow under Vine Street and Water Street in downtown. In fact, you can hear it if you stand next to the Fifth Third building. There's actually a microphone that has been dropped into the culvert, and you can hear the creek on the speakers. If you want to hear the actual creek, you can stand in the parking lot behind the Kentucky Theater and listen to the grates in the ground, and you can hear the creek underground. When the Rupp Arena Task Force took a look at the arena and the district around it, one of the recommendations of Space Group, which was the planning firm that put together the master plan for them, was to restore and revive the Town Branch as a central part of downtown. And so, picking up on where the task force left off and where that plan left off, the Downtown Development Authority invited qualifications from firms all over the country and actually the world as well to look into this issue for us. We had such a great response. Over 20 international, national firms responded that we pivoted a little and invited 5 of them to participate in the design competition. They were given the brief in early December, and by the beginning of February, we had in our hands 5 exciting proposals for conceptually what it would mean to bring back the Town Branch downtown. And the proposals ranged from putting the creek itself above ground in one continuous flow through the city, to reinterpreting it in various moments, to some massive architecture. But in the end, where we landed was Scape, which is a landscape firm out of New York City, and that partnered with local firm EHI Consultants. And they had 3 things that really pulled it all together and were the key pieces for why they rose above the rest of the competition. One was that they based the entire design on the karst limestone geology of the bluegrass. So the bluegrass is a series of sinkholes and caves and sandstone, and creeks in Kentucky usually pop out of a spring, and they run downhill and they dive into a sinkhole and then they reappear somewhere else. And that sort of mystery and of water formed the basis for what they designed. The second one is that more than just create a pretty landscape feature, they actually designed a piece of green infrastructure. And what we mean by green infrastructure is that in addition to creating spaces we would want to be and tying the downtown together, this also will filter, clean, and manage stormwater in a way that actually helps the system and returns returns clean water back to our creeks. So in addition to creating great space, it actually has an ecological function as well. And then finally is that their design seemed right-sized for Lexington. That we're a mid-sized American city, and they gave us a concept that could be implemented in phases, that was manageable, something that seems eminently doable, because as you look at it, almost the entire scheme is on either in public right-of-way or on public land. And so there's a real opportunity here to be able to pull this together and imagine that this is something we might actually build within the foreseeable future. Isaac Murphy Art Garden at the top of Midland Avenue at Third, where Third turns into Winchester. It's near the Jif peanut butter plant. That's really the headwaters for the town branch. There's a spring near the plant, near the peanut butter plant, and that's where the water first emerges. Now, the rainwater, the thing to remember about Vine Street is that it's kind of at the bottom of the hill in both directions. So you've got rainwater that's running through downtown, through the neighborhoods, down to Vine Street and into the town branch today. It's just that town branch happens to be underground. So the headwaters, though, here at the top of Midland. And the idea is to take the wide right-of-way along Midland and create what we think of as a typical creek. Is that, you know, it would be shallow, not particularly wide, but at wet times of year there'd be a lot of water, and at dry times of year a little bit of water. But this would create a linear park, tie into the Legacy Trail, and also set up a connector between the Legacy Trail and a bike path that would eventually tie into the town branch trail. So this also creates in addition to cars, you can now walk and bike this section of Midland. Turns the corner around Main and Vine, maybe appears as a little bit more of a pool here. And then we get into what they call the Carve, which is probably the centerpiece, or one of the two centerpieces of the design. It's an idea that in what is now currently a parking lot along Vine Street, across from the Transit Center, behind the Kentucky Theater and the library and the Government Center, and taking that area and turning it into a world-class public space. And you'd have playgrounds, you'd have a splash park for the kids, you would have what they call the Karst window, which is where you would actually see the creek flowing underground, something that is taking out the Martin Luther King overpass and turning it into a pedestrian overpass so that you create a bookend between downtown and UK along MLK. And really taking what is now lost space and the backs of buildings and creating a world-class park that also provides economic development opportunity overlooking the park. Down Vine Street, the design really takes into account the fact that Vine Street right now is kind of a speedway, and that much of either side of the street is dedicated to either parking lots or parking decks. And so the idea is to create a median that would continue this pedestrian bike path along Vine Street until we come to the renovated Rupp Arena site, incorporating the existing Triangle Park, coming around, and then the water then ducks back underground and emerges dramatically as a waterfall behind Rupp Arena, opening up into this field that we don't have right now. And it's a beautiful interpretation of what the Cox Street lot, which is currently a giant parking lot, but a giant parking lot with a floodplain in the middle of it, is that utilizing the existing floodplain, use that as ball fields, recreation fields, forest, giving us a park that we don't have now in downtown or anywhere near downtown, that would become the anchor for both the renovated arena and the new convention center and new development along the park's edge, until finally the town branch, at this point, having gone through the filtration and various cleaning and management along the way, creek is daylighted, comes back to the surface, ties into the town branch, and continues to flow to Elkhorn Creek and eventually to the Kentucky River. That's the general gist of the concept. As we look to the future, what comes next is the competition allowed for us to receive 5 conceptual designs. We were very impressed with the amount of work that went into this design. There was work to do. We got to figure out some of the engineering questions, figure out a few more of the traffic questions, but overall, this is a great place to start. And in the next phase, we will begin to answer questions such as, how do we implement this? What is the phasing we can do? What's it going to cost? But this is a great place to start. I'm excited to be here. For more information, you can go to townbranchcommons.com and find out more, see the designs, see all of the design proposals, take a closer look at Scape's work, and find out about upcoming events.